What's up, gaming squad? As you can see, we're back in the old setup. I hope you guys like it. I do tend to prefer this one because the lighting is kind of better, and also I feel like the background just like it's cooler. You know what I'm saying? So hope you're rocking with it. If not, we're going back to the other setup in about a week. So yeah, we can do like a little poll. Which background do y'all fuck with more? But anyways, on to the video. Topic of today is I thought I had game. I used to have game, but nowadays I definitely don't. Let's start off simple. Texting, which is like kind of the some a lot of the time texting is the intro to being able to speak game because texting is have I lost it? Have I lost it? Am I just not good at anything anymore? See, texting is like kind of the intro when you start speaking to someone. A lot of the times when you do start speaking to someone, it happens to be over text or like even if you don't, you end up speaking over text a lot because that's just the world we live in nowadays. And I feel like back in the day, it used to be so much easier to kind of speak game over text because you would just kind of text the way you talk, right? But also, I feel like it's also easier if you've met the person in person first and then you start texting because then they kind of know what vibe you give off, and then you can text, and they won't be like, oh, you're weird for saying that. See, I made the mistake. There was this girl texting me just now and said, do you have an accent? And I was like, no, why? Because and she said because you text so weird, and I'm like, the fuck does that have to do with me? I told her no, I don't have an accent, and I try to text just I try to oh my god I try to text the way I speak, and she said you formulate weird English sentences, which that could also be attributed to the fact that I feel like my English is rapidly declining and it's very 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 worrying. I digress, and I choose to see it as a good thing because as you all know, we're on the positive mindset for 2026. Essentially, what I used to do back in the day, and I feel I've thought about this before. I think a problem I have is I have not adapted my game to the modern game. You know what I'm saying? See, I still I can't be for sure, but I think when I speak game on text, right, I still text the way I did in like the way I used to do in like 2022 and 2023. Obviously, adapted to the language I have right now, but the premise of the way I speak game over text is the same, and I feel like that's not very optimal for today's crowd. Because a lot of the time nowadays, I'll be texting someone and just, what happened just now. They'll be like, why do you text that way? And I'll be like, I'm just being silly. Come on now. Also, this is kind of. I talked to my friend the other day, kind of regarding a bit of this topic, and I was like, why are people so, not down to match my freak? Like, why are people so boring nowadays? If I text you something silly on Instagram or Snapchat, like, come on, match the freak gang. Like, what are we doing? Oh my god, that I was about to say, especially in Sweden, like, bro, people take like social interactions way too seriously. Like, why are you out here giving me like bitch eyeing me just because I said like I made a joke here and there? I love joking with people who I've never met. See that it's and that's when I end up being in a situation where they think I'm weird just because I'm way better socially than they are. But whatever. I guess it's hard being better than everyone else. So since I can't, really be my most social self, especially when I'm around people that are of my ethnicity, that being Swedish, I kind of have the go-to for spitting game is standing in a corner and waiting for someone to come up to me, and then I kind of ease them in by thinking I'm just this like super chill. I spit game the way I think Swedish people would spit game. I'm just being, like, yo, what up, shawty? And then as the conversation continues, I'll add like little, how should I say, like little questions here and there, which I use to kind of attempt to poke at their personality, like not make fun of them. But I remember there was this one girl I talked to, and I asked, because I wanted to see if she was on my level. I asked, I don't remember the question exactly, but I kind of hinted at, me having watched anime. That's a very like high risk, high reward, but it worked out in my favor because she was like, you watch anime? So obviously from there the conversation continues to bloom, it just grows and it gets way better because when people have like little niche interests, I know anime isn't a niche interest, but here it is. But if you have these little things about you that make you that differentiates you from other people, it's so much easier to have a conversation because like what are we talking about? Other thing I like to do is whenever I'm at a function, I'm never go alone to a function because how the fuck are you gonna speak game alone at a function? But anyways, when I'm with a friend, for example, it's so easy to have them because a lot of the times they're way more social than I am. So I'll just have them, walk up to whatever, the crowd is, and they'll start speaking, and I'll just kind of bounce off. I like to pretend that I'm really autistic. A lot of the time, obviously, I don't act retarded, but like adding a little sprinkle of autism in there, it kind of opens up for people to for people with personalities to come and talk to you. It's work. At least right now, it's the method, and this is something that I've had to adapt to into my repertoire, because back in the day this wasn't the move. Back in the day I could just like be myself, because the crowd I hung out with back then was like more like myself. But now that I have to kind of hide this part of myself and put on this facade of me being like, yeah, so. And then what the autism does is, whenever my friends will say something completely ordinary, I'll just throw something in there like, what's y'all's favorite color? A lot of times they just start laughing, which is like, yes, laughter is like the way to this. I don't know, but laughter is chill. I love like making people laugh. That's a good game. That's a good spinning game. Just be silly. Half of the time it works, but it really depends on the crowd you're with. Because if it's a crowd of like stuck up serious people, and they don't end up laughing to my "what's your favorite color" statement, leave the function immediately. So this is what I've been saying. It used to be so much easier to spit game, because then, at least for me, because I could just go up to people and just be myself. But nowadays I have to put on this facade and pretend I'm somebody I'm not. And then I sprinkle in some autism in there, and then I can finally be who I am. But a lot of the time, the method is just to get violently drunk. Whatever you say wasn't really you, because drunk you is not the same as sober you. I love thinking that when I'm drunk, like whenever I'm just, on any sort of substance, I'm like, what would my sober self do right now? Just to kind of, keep myself from not spiraling out. Like, it's a very good bringing me back to my senses kind of thing. But the best thing ever is when everybody else is drunk and then you're drunk as well. Because when I drink, I don't like to get way too drunk. I just get like a little bit, just to get a little confidence booster. Because then when you're talking to people, they're acting like hooligans, and I can just because when they're drunk, that's when I can act like myself, because my behavior will not be seen as weird. Because when they're drunk, I'm just matching their energy. Let me tell you all a story about the girl I fumbled by not having any game. Essentially, what happened was, it was about 3 years ago. So this story takes place in Bali, as many do, because that's where my prime was and that's where I have the most stories from. But essentially, what happened was, me and my friend, we were at my house, we were chilling, and I forgot how, but I had gotten word of that there was this friend of a friend of a friend of a friend. There were these girls in our class, right? And they had a friend who was like, damn. So my friend dared me to DM her, and I was like, I'd bet. So I hit her with a little, hey, what's up? Just on Instagram. I followed her and then I DM'd her. Dude, it used to be so easy to just, like throw some shots out there, but whatever. She hits me back saying, the sky, bruh. And me and my friend spent about 10 minutes trying to decode whatever that meant. But obviously it was just like, because, I said, what's up? So she's like, the sky. And I'm like, ha, that's so funny. So we end up texting here and there, and eventually we plan her coming over to my house. My English is declining. We set up a little date of her coming over to my house, and we're just gonna chill, talk a little, maybe drink some tea or some. Fucking. Basically, my gang was there, and we're all freaking. Or I'm freaking out. They're super hyped for me, but we're kind of like planning. We're dressing me. We're trying to like I'm trying to get myself ready for this like super, super cute girl that's coming over. I'm like, okay, I'm so nervous. I don't even want to do this anymore. So she comes over, and I'm like, yes, this is about to be great. And the plan was for my gang to kind of hide away, because I didn't really want her thinking that I had a bunch of friends over and she was coming out to hang out with my friends. But me being the silly little guy I am, I immediately took her to show her where my friends were hiding. Like, oh, my gang's here. And it ended up being kind of an optimal move, because apparently she had already checked my location and seen that there were other people there. So it worked out in the end. Otherwise I would have been seen as kind of silly. But what I also did at the time, which wasn't as optimal, was introduce her to my dad. Either way, we go back to my room and we start chatting it up. We're talking about some bullshit. At the time, I had no game at all, but this was such a pivotal moment for me to kind of like learn how to talk to women. But it ended up going not well at all, because we kept talking, and eventually, we got a bit close, we got a bit intimate, and she made the first move. I was like this, laying on my bed, just like looking up, and she was like kind of like laying over me. I was such a bitch at the time, bro. Oh my fucking. But she ended up making the first move, and I'm like, yes, this went so well. This was so optimal. But essentially, I just got dominated the entire time. She goes home, and I'm like, yo, I had such a fire time. And she was like, yeah, me too. And we continued to text over the course of a few like weeks, maybe, until eventually she just goes completely dry and like doesn't text me at all. She had taken one of my favorite shirts with her, so I was a bit upset about that, and I kind of wanted it back. me being the silly little guy I was, definitely was not gonna hit her up because I'm scared. But I remember there was one time I was in class, and this was during the time where she had like stopped texting, and I was like crying, and I was obsessing over her. And I was like, "Fuck, what did I do wrong?" All that. And I see her. If you have Snapchat, you can see like, this person is typing. I got one of those from her. I'm like, "Oh my god, oh my god, oh my god, oh my god, oh my god." But she just asked me if like I wanted my shirt back, and I was like, "Nah," even though I really wanted it back. Some more time passes, and I hook up with her friend. After that, I get added into a group chat with my friends, this girl that I liked, and we're just chatting. And my friend convinces me that I should hit her up again and be like, "Yo, do you want to start over? Do you want to try, again?" So of course I do that because, I'm about to hit this shit. So I text her like, "Yo, I know I kind of fucked up last time. Absolutely cuck maxing. I did nothing wrong. I was just like, being a little bit of a, I wasn't spitting game, I was just being not optimal." So I was like, "Can we hashtag try again maybe?" And she's like, "No, you got with my friend and I felt like, it wasn't really working." Basically, she let me down super easy, but I knew like, holy shit, that wasn't optimal. And then again, she asked me, "Do you want your shirt back?" And I was like, "Nah." One thing that really hurt me was that I asked someone who had talked to her, like, why she stopped talking to me. It's completely reasonable now that I think about it, but she basically just said I was super boring. And this really stuck with me, and this was a positive thing actually, because this being in the back of my head for like going forward, it made me force myself to, kind of develop a personality, which ended up working out really well because now I'm like, on top of the world and I'm doing insanely well in all aspects of life. I'm doing amazing. I just applied to work at McDonald's because every single other job has rejected me, and if I don't get this job, I will end my life. But basically, what I'm saying is, I have gone through a lot in order to get where I am today, and you can do the same. It's all a mindset. You need to go through horrible experience to come out as a winner, because they will suck at the time, and maybe, this just came to my head. Maybe you're in the state I was back in the day right now. So if you see an opportunity that may seem uncomfortable, you need to go in there and you need to grab it, because then think about it. Okay, no matter how scary it seems, you need to go for it, because you're gonna do that opportunity and you're gonna fuck up and you're gonna fail and you're gonna want to end your life and you're gonna wish you never did it. But then in like a few months, it's gonna be such a learning experience from you that whenever an opportunity that may be more favorable comes up in the future, you're gonna have learned from that past opportunity where you failed, developed something and adapted to whatever it was you failed, leading to you winning in the next opportunity. Quick little rant today. Didn't want to do too much. I just wanted to kind of get back into, being able to speak. I haven't eaten anything today, so that's why I'm kind of, like not on top of my game. My speaking abilities aren't really where I want them to be at the moment, but just getting a few videos out here and there, just it makes me more comfortable. And I promise, I know they suck right now, but the videos will be getting better. Okay, so stay blessed. Uh, Wear your seatbelt, and yeah, have an amazing week/day.